Personally, I don't find pelicans to be scary, but that is not to say large birds aren't scary. I think the larger the bird, the scarier it can be, which is why today's creature spotlight is going to be on the pelican that only appears in a couple segments of the Reanimal game. We'll go over the sightings, interactions, and take a closer look at the in-game model. Before we jump right in, if you enjoy the content, I'd appreciate a like and a subscribe, and I would love to hear your thoughts on the creature as well. We first see the pelican as we are about to leave the hotel. Our bandaged friend is waving us down from up above. While his back is turned, the pelican swoops in and scoops him into his mouth. The pelican broke open the path for us to follow, but it was too quick as we just watched the pelican fly towards the lighthouse in the distance. Honestly, at this point, I didn't think we'd see our bandaged friend alive, but we continued to sail in the direction of the lighthouse and landed on the beach. While making our way towards the lighthouse, we get harassed by flocks of seagulls. The next time we see the pelican is when we're at the top of the lighthouse. Our bandaged friend is trapped in the cage, and we cut the rope holding the cage, causing it to fall and break open. But when we did, the pelican was there just resting off to the side. This begins the chase sequence with the pelican as he pursues us down the lighthouse. We make it out of the lighthouse thinking we get a moment of peace, but the pelican crashes through the lighthouse door to continue the chase. As soon as the pelican gets outside, the seagulls begin to swarm around us. The pelican breaks the rickety bridges and ends up flying around us in the sky. Just as we're about to make it into the barn, the swarm of seagulls begin to dive bomb us. The final time we see the pelican is when it crashes through the roof of the barn, letting itself in along with some seagulls. Our group escapes out of the barn with some of the pigs and closes the door on the pelican as the entire barn is engulfed in flames. We never see the pelican again after that and assume we got roasted in the barn with the rest of the pig. So the only times we directly interact with the pelican is when we get to the lighthouse. So skipping over to that part, I can show you how it looks when he catches us in the different parts of the chase. So at the top of the lighthouse, after we free our bandaged friend, we can see the pelican uncurl himself and spread out his wings. If we stay where we are by the cage, the pelican would jump down but won't have any special animations with us. The result is that we're just crushed by the giant bird. We can take a look at it at a slower game speed just to observe his movements. It is really gross to see how his neck is always just so bent and twisted. The pelican looks to be barely holding up his own head with the gular sack, but if we do move ourselves closer to the hatch leading down, the pelican does do a special animation here. He scoops us up into his mouth, and just like a real world pelican, he will scoop his head back to swallow us whole. The pelican is faced away from us for a majority of the scene, so let's see it again but at a slower speed and at a different angle. Looking at this animation from the other side is quite brutal. Unfortunately, the animation does clip itself into the shelf in the corner, making it hard to see it clearly. After we're scooped up, it will throw us up into the air while it's in its mouth and is essentially chewing on us so we go down easier. Our player model looks to have curled itself into a ball. We can go inside the gular pouch to see how we ended up. I tried doing it a little off from the hatch so we can have a better look at it, but its head kind of freaks out, mostly because of my free cam shenanigans. But we essentially will get pulled into the same corner to get chewed up again. So here are some shots of it at a different angle. Quite a brutal scene. So once we drop into the hatch, the pelican will struggle to get through the hatch as its gular sack is struggling to fit. This part of the game is usually dark, so I added some lights for a better view. Staying under, we see that we ended up getting crushed by the pelican, and it was hoping for a cool little animation if it dragged us back up if we stayed under for too long. Now let us see what it looks like when the pelican catches us midway through the stairs. The animation for this one is a bit different as he looks to lunge his head at us a bit to get us. He ends up doing the same thing where he scoops us into his mouth and chews down on us. This time I waited at the very bottom where our bandaged friend is holding the door open for us. If we stand off to the side, the pelican will just crush us with his movements and we fall over. If we wait at the entrance, the pelican will then scoop us up into his mouth and do the same as before. Let's take a look at this when viewing it outside, just for a different perspective. Overall the same as before, but his gular pouch clips through the walls. Once we finally make it outside the lighthouse, the pelican will crash through the door. If we waited out there for too long, we will just get crushed by its body. I tried stopping at different parts of the path leading back, but they all ended with the pelican crushing us with no other attack animations. When we make it to the midpoint, which is the shed, the pelican will fly off then stop. It will be seen again in the background later when we exit the shed. On top of our shed are large numbers of the seagulls. By this time, I guess the Pelican was the alpha of these seagulls. I decided to pause the game as we're getting bombarded by the swarms of seagull. It was quite a hectic sight to see. One small bird isn't so scary, but a large group swarming over you is. The final time we see the Pelican is when it crashes through the roof of the barn. Checking it out in slow-mo, I perch up on the beam on top as swarms of seagulls fly around. If we stay where we are, the pigs actually trample us to death as they panic to escape. The Pelican will just continue to stay up there until we leave. So with that, we run out the barn with our friends. Checking it out from a different angle, we can see the Pelican will not jump down, but teleport down already, flying in the direction towards us. Our friends will stop the Pelican from coming out, and will close the barn door on it. After that, the other side of the barn door will just unload, and the Pelican is gone. The Pelican model from an overview looks like just a normal but ugly giant pelican, with the addition of a giant flesh sack always hanging from underneath its beak. The head of this pelican is where all the disgustingness is. Taking a closer look at its mouth, we can see a set of very human-like teeth with some missing. The teeth are spaced out quite a bit. If we were to imagine a person's mouth turning into a long extended beak, I would expect our teeth to get spaced out as well. The mouth is very gummy and doesn't show the entrance to the gular pouch. I assume the dark middle divider is where the mouth would open up to drop its victim into the pouch. The bill of this pelican does not look like it is able to completely close. The mouth from every time we've seen the pelican is always just ajar. Another interesting detail are the eyes. If we're sticking with the theme of Reanimal, this is one of the two features that I find on the pelican that show a little of the human that was left over. The neck of this creature is unreasonably long and is barely manageable. The neck will jiggle around and will twist and coil in on itself as we've previously seen. Moving on to the rest of the body, I'm surprised not to find many human-like parts. The wings are indeed giant pelican bird wings. I did have to go inside the pelican to view the feet. The feet are webbed and look very bird-like. It's cool to see the faint details of veins within the webbed part. Underneath, there isn't much to say on the appearance, but the pelican is looking to be a successful predator considering how well fed the belly looks. The final detail to look over is the one that stands out the most, which is the gular pouch. Oddly, the gular pouch of this creature has slits. These could be injuries as we see it drag the pouch on the floor, most likely getting caught on any rugged or sharp objects. Another reason for them could be to empty out the water when it scoops its mouth into the water. I imagine it would be like a fleshy fish net. Going inside the gular pouch, we can see what it looks like to be a victim of it. The wall of the gular pouch looks slimy to prevent the prey from climbing back out. Honestly though, if I was small enough, I most likely could just squeeze out from one of the slits of this pouch. I also just realized that this weird gular pouch reminds me of the carnivorous pitcher plant by the shape and idea of it. It would have been extra horrifying if there was just a pool of acidic fluid to melt the victim down inside the pouch. The pelican isn't the most terrifying creature from Reanimal on a visual standpoint. The grotesque gular sack is the biggest highlight of the body horror that we see from this creature. Getting eaten by this creature is what I could imagine to be a very horrifying experience. Pelicans tend to swallow their food whole, so their stomach acid is expected to be exceptionally strong in order to digest every part of the prey, such as the bones and scales. Overall, it is still a cool imagination of a horrific version of a pelican. Thank you all for watching, and special thanks to those who left interesting comments and factoids about horses and the Burkhorse creature in the previous video. I hope to find some here as well for the pelican, but until then, I will see you all later.